Hello, my dear students. Welcome to my English class. Today we'll do English Revision 3. The topics are from Prose, we'll do Rip Van Winkle, that is chapter 17 from your Learning English textbook. And then we'll do Grammar Revision, and the topic is prepositions for class 4. Let's move on to Rip Van Winkle. So first of all, before going to the revision work, I would like to tell you the summary of the story once again. I hope all of you have remembered the summary very well, but still I would like to summarize the story to you so that it gets easier when we'll do the revision work. So let's begin. The story Rip Van Winkle focuses on the idle and simple character of Rip Van Winkle. Most of the villagers love him, but he is constantly nagged by his wife named Dame Van Winkle. Rip is good at helping others, but he is inept at helping himself or his family. He leaves Dame Van Winkle to run the house, care for the children, and work at the farm. Yet Rip Van Winkle is not a lazy man. He is good at hunting and fishing, and is willing to do things for others. When it comes to his own land, however, he seems to have bad luck. He can't make anything grow, and out of frustration often spends time away from his nagging wife and failing farm. Rip likes to spend time with his friends, who are other idle men like him, on a bench in front of the inn. The main leader of the group of men is the inn's landlord, Nick Vedder, that is Nicholas Vedder. Dame Van Winkle believes that these men are the bad influence on Rip Van Winkle. She follows Rip to the inn and nags him as well as all the other men. Unable to escape his wife in the town, Rip finds solace by going hunting in the woods. He takes his dog, Wolf, who is equally afraid of Dame Van Winkle, and his gun. While exploring the Catskill Mountain, Rip and his dog reach the highest point. Rip rests laying down on a grassy knoll and surveying the land around him. As it grows dark, Rip reluctantly begins to head home. He then hears a voice of a man calling him by his name. Rip at first could not find the source, but finally he spotted a strange man climbing up the mountain carrying a heavy keg on his shoulders. True to character, Rip jumps in to help him, and the two men carried the keg up in silence. They reached a place where he found similar-looking strange men who were playing ninepins. Every time the ball hits the pins, it sounded like the thunder. All the men had long, colorful beards. Even though they were playing a game, they were very serious. Following the lead of the man, he arrived with Rip serves the men liquor from the keg. He finds the sight of the drink irresistible and soon drinks some himself. A naturally thirsty soul, he drinks more and more until finally he falls into a deep sleep. Rip wakes up unusually stiff and sore. Then he found that the strange men were gone, as is Wolf. He suspected that the men played a trick on him. As he plods back down the way, he came to his village, where he found everyone dressed strangely. Rip could recognize no one. The villagers seemed shocked at his appearance too. Rip then suddenly realized that his beard has grown a foot long. He then moved towards his house, and to his surprise, it was decayed. The roof had fallen in, and the windows were broken. The doors were off their hinges. He could find neither his wife nor his children. The inn where he used to meet his friends has disappeared. The crowd started asking him different questions. Then when he says that he has just came to look for his friend Nicholas Vedder, that is Nick Vedder, they tell him that he has been dead all these 20 years. Rip Van Winkle becomes still more distressed and confused. Rip notices a pretty woman with a child in the crowd. He strikes up a conversation with her and discovers that she is his daughter, Judith Gardner. She tells him that his wife, Dame Van Winkle, died a short time ago. An old woman finally recognizes Rip as Rip Van Winkle, the man who disappeared 20 years back. And now, as an old man, Rip is free to be as lazy as he likes. He then started living with his daughter and her husband and becomes the village gossip and storyteller. So children, I hope now the summary is once again clear to you. So now we'll move on to the revision, that is the exercises, okay? So let's move on to the revision part. First we have answer the following questions. Answer the following questions. The first question is, how can you say that Rip Van Winkle was a good-natured man? How can you say that Rip Van Winkle was a good-natured man? The answer is very easy, and I know you all can write it by your own, but still I'll discuss it with you so that it's become easier, okay? The answer is, Rip was a good-natured man because he was always willing to do a kind deed for his friends. He was also a great friend of all the children too. So the answer to the first question, that is, how can you say that Rip Van Winkle was a good-natured man? The answer is, Rip was a good-natured man because he was always willing to do a kind deed for his friends. He was also a great friend of all the children too. Okay, next, how did everything in Rip's village change? How did everything in Rip's village change? The answer to this question is, as Rip neared to his village, he found everything had changed because the children hooted after him and there were queer names over the doors and strange faces at the windows. As Rip neared to his village, everything had changed because the children hooted after him and there were queer names over the doors and strange faces at the windows. Okay. Now next, let's see what we have for number 3. We have a RTC, okay? That is, Rip, Rip, come and help me. Rip, Rip, come and help me. Question number 1. Where is the line taken from? We know where is the line taken from? Yes, the line is taken from the story Rip Van Winkle. It's very easy. Who was calling Rip? An old man with a long beard shouting for help called Rip. An old man with a long beard shouting for help called Rip. What was the man carrying? The man was carrying a keg on his back or on his shoulder. The man was carrying a keg on his shoulders. What did Rip forget and do? What did Rip forget and do? Rip forgot how tired he was and clambered down the mountainside. Rip forgot how tired he was and clambered down the mountainside. Okay. Next, that is question number 4. What did Rip find when he reached his house? What did Rip find when he reached his house? When Rip reached his house, he found that his house had decayed. The roof had fallen in and the windows were broken. The doors were off their hinges too. He could not see his wife and children there. So the last answer, that is number 4. What did Rip find when he reached his house is, when Rip reached his house, he found that his house had decayed, the roof had fallen in, and the windows were broken. The doors were off their hinges too. He could not see his wife and children there. Let's move on to the next topic. That is, answer the following questions briefly. Answer the following questions briefly. Please children, note all this down in your copy, okay? Number 1. How was Rip according to Dame Van Winkle? How was Rip according to Dame Van Winkle? According to Dame Van Winkle, Rip was a worthless fellow whom she must always scold, but her scolding did not change him in the least. According to Dame Van Winkle, Rip was a worthless fellow whom she must always scold, but her scolding did not change him in the least. Next, number 2. How were the little old men dressed? How were the little old men dressed? The little old men wore tall caps, their coats had large brass buttons, their trousers were short, and on their shoes were huge silver buckles. The little old men wore tall caps, their coats had large brass buttons, their trousers were short, and on their shoes were huge silver buckles. Next, that is number 3. Who is Judith Gardiner? Who is Judith Gardiner? We all know the answer, isn't it, children? Yes, Judith Gardiner was Rip's daughter. Judith Gardiner was Rip's daughter. Next, the last one. Who was Nick Vedder? Who was Nick Vedder? Nick Vedder was Rip's old friend. Nick Vedder was Rip's old friend. Now next we have practice work, that is, correct the errors in the following sentences. You will underline the wrong one in the sentence and you will do it in a correct way, okay? You will write the correct answer and underline the correct word in the sentence, okay? That is number 1. We have Tiger was the best hunter in the village. Tiger was the best hunter in the village. Next we have number 2. Rip placed the mug upon the grass. Rip placed the mug upon the grass. Next we have, it was Rip's own city but it had changed. It was Rip's own city but it had changed. Next, number 4. The windows were off their hinges. The windows were off their hinges. Next, make sentences with the following words. Make sentences with the following words. Number 1, caught. Number 1, caught. Number 2, tired. Number 2, tired. Number 3, deep. Number 3, deep. Number 4, crowded. Number 4, crowded. Number 5, village. Number 5, village. Next we have, who said these words to whom? I hope all of you are writing it down. Okay, number 1, within inverted commas. Which way do you go, sir? Which way do you go, sir? The answer you will write it by yourself. Okay. Number 2. What will the good dame say when I go home? What will the good dame say when I go home? Number 3. Who are you and why have you come to this village? Who are you and why have you come to this village? Number 4. And what is your father's name? And what is your father's name? Okay, children. Now we'll move on to English grammar. So, English prose is done. I hope all of you have written everything down in your copies, and now we are moving to English grammar. The topic of our revision work is prepositions. Topic is prepositions. Now first we'll do a quick recap of what is a preposition. Let's see, children. I hope you all know, but still we are doing a recapitulation of this chapter. So preposition is a word that connects a noun or a pronoun to other words in a sentence. It is usually placed before the noun or the pronoun. Preposition is a word that connects a noun or a pronoun to other words in a sentence. It is usually placed before the noun or the pronoun. Note, preposition can tell us about place or position, time, and movement. Now let's see prepositions of place or position. Prepositions of place or position tell us where something or someone is. Prepositions of place or position tell us where something or someone is. Example, don't keep the jacket on the table. Put it in the cupboard. Don't keep the jacket on the table. Put it in the cupboard. So, where is the jacket? On the table. Where should it be? In the cupboard. So here the prepositions are on and in. Okay, on the table, where? On the table. And where in the cupboard? In the cupboard. Okay. So next we have prepositions of time. Prepositions of time tell us when something happens. Example, the music class is on Monday. It begins at noon. So, when is the music class? On Monday. When does it begins? At noon. So, on and at are prepositions, okay, and they are called prepositions of time because they tell us when something happens. Next we have prepositions of movement. Prepositions of movement tell us in which direction someone or something is going. Example, Arun ran across the field. In which direction? Across the field. The duck walked along the river. From where did the duck walk? Along the river. So here the prepositions are across and along. Okay, and they tell us about the preposition of movement, which shows us the direction of someone or something is going. Okay, here is the list of English prepositions. Okay, now see: about, above, across, after, against, along, among, around. See, so many. Okay, before, behind, between, concerning, despite, without, for, from, in, including, into, like, near, off, off, on, onto, out, over, past, plus, since, throughout, within, down, during, except, following, to, towards, under, until, beside, besides. Okay, all these are prepositions. So this is a chart which will help you to know which words are preposition. Here are some words. There are many. Okay, there are many English prepositions, but some are in this list. Okay, now we are moving to exercise. Exercise 1. Take out your copies, English grammar copy, and note it down. Okay, complete these sentences using these prepositions: about, for, of, on, to, with. So you have to complete these sentences using the above prepositions. Okay, so number 1 we have: Peter was extremely happy dash his new computer. Peter was extremely happy dash his new computer. Number 2, her mother had punished him dash something he had done that day. But as he was so angry dash her, she finally let him go out. Number 3, her parents insisted dash having us to tea. Number 4, this song reminds me dash my last holidays in Maldives. Number 5, according dash this recipe, you must put the cake in the oven for 30 minutes. Number 6, she is so anxious that dash her elderly mother that she can't sleep well. Number 7, I had never dreamt dash winning the lottery. Next exercise, we have exercise 2. Complete these sentences with about, by, from, in, on, round, through, to, with. Whichever preposition will go in these sentences, you will fill up. Okay. Number 1, my dream is to travel dash the world. Number 2, how would you go dash plane. Number 3, the traffic in the city was so heavy. It took us 2 hours to drive dash it. Number 4, dash Manchester, we took the plane dash London. Number 5, she doesn't seem very happy dash fact, she looks quite depressed. Number 6, when the film finished, we all had tears dash our eyes. I hope all of you are writing it down. Now I'll move to the next slide, that is more about prepositions. We all have already studied all this, but once again we are recapitulating all those. Okay, so more about prepositions. First we have in or into. When do we use in? We use in to show the location of an object. Example, the book is in my bag. So the book is already in my bag. Here in is the preposition. Now when do we use into? We use into to show the movement of the object. Example, I put the book into my bag. Here is the movement. See, I am putting my book inside my bag, into my bag. That's why there is a movement, and so we are using into. But previously, see, the book was already inside my bag. Okay, that's why I wrote the book is in my bag. There is no movement of the book. But for the next one, we have movement. That is, I put the book into my bag. Okay, I hope it's clear. Now, one small exercise. This is your practice work. Fill in the blanks with in or into. Number 1. She always gets up early dash the morning. Number 2. Do you think the report could be translated dash English for the meeting tomorrow? Number 3. The car crushed dash a fence. Number 4. The manager didn't take part dash the discussion. Number 5. Look at the woman dash the picture. Who is she? These all are very easy. You all can do it on your own, okay? Next we have on, above, over. When do we use on? We use on in relation to something. We use on when anything is on top of something but in touch. Example, put the cup on the table. So the cup and the table both are in touch with each other. So we are using on here. When do we use above? We use above when we say something is higher in relation to something else that is fixed upside at a distance. Example, the fan is above the bed. Are the fan and the bed are touched by each other? No. They have a big gap, okay? So the bed is below the fan and the fan is above the bed in the what? Fixed distance, okay? So we are using above. The fan is above the bed. Next, the sky is above the earth. They all are, the fan, the sky is fixed. That's why we can write above. When do we use over? We use over when we generally speak about the movement of something higher. When something higher from us are moving and having a movement, we use over. Example, the clouds moved over the city. Okay? Birds are flying over the city. Okay, I hope it's clear. We also use over with numbers. Example, over 100 people came to the party. So, more than 100. When we say, we use over. Okay? So, more than 100 people came to the party. So, how can I use that more than to something else? We can use over there. Over 100 people came to the party. Now we have a small exercise. Fill in the blanks with on, above or over. Number 1. I went to work dash Tuesday but I didn't go dash Friday. Number 2. The test shouldn't take dash 2 hours to complete. Number 3. The cabinets are dash the sink in the kitchen. Number 4. The tourists were standing dash the local residents at the outdoor market. Number 5. The cat is slipping dash the table. Next we have under or below. When do we use under? We use under when we talk about a low level or layer. Example, the ball rolled under the car. Okay, we use under to show a situation or condition or someone's state of mind. Example, he is under a lot of pressure. So here under is a preposition. We also use under to talk about age or quantity. Example, under 30 people showed up at the presentation. Like In the previous one we told over 100 people came to the birthday party. Yes, and now we are telling under 30 people, so less than 30 people. So we are using under 30 people showed up at the presentation. When do we use below? We use below when we are talking about the relation of two things, that is when one is lower than the other. But it is important to remember that it is usually on the same plane or surface. Example, the green photo is below the red one. Both the photos are in the same surface, but one is below the other. That's why we can use the word below in this sentence. The green photo is below the red one. We also use below in relation to a reference point. Example, the temperature has dropped below the freezing point. Okay? Now we have another exercise. Fill in the blanks with under or below. Number 1. I keep my cleaning supplies dash the sink. Number 2. The sofa is dash the painting in the living room. Number 3. The CD player is dash the DVD player on the shelf. Number 4. Dash the window there is a rose garden. Number 5. The dog is slipping dash the chair. Next we have beside or besides. Both are confusing. It looks similar but both have different meanings. Okay? See, what does beside means? Beside means something that is side by side. That is at the side of, by or next to. Example, go and sit beside your mother. Okay, my friend is sitting beside me. These all are the sentences where we can use beside. When do we use besides? We use besides to state in addition to something. Example, besides the Ramayana, I have Gita. Okay, I hope it's clear. I have Ramayana as well as I have Gita. So I am using the word besides. Besides the Ramayana, I have the Gita. So here are some exercises. Okay. Fill in the blanks with beside or besides. Number 1. There is a nightstand dash my bed. Number 2. I was walking dash my friend when I slipped and fell. Number 3. Where else did you go dash the barber shop? Number 4. There was no one in the room dash Tom and Mary. Number 5. He has no friends dash me. Okay, is it clear? So children, that's all for today's class. Thank you and have a nice day.